Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk a little bit about the E-2 visa, but only about one section of it, the part dealing with the investment. Because over the last year, it seems like I have gotten lots of people who call who want to do the investment, and they think bottom line is they think they take $50,000, $100,000 from their account wherever they happen to be, open up an account in the U.S., transfer the money, and boom, they have a $100,000 investment in the U.S. And it doesn't work like that. Um, the the fact of the matter is that the money that you invest in an E2 must be at risk. So let's just ask ourselves, if you take money from, let's just say Germany, and German account, and you open up a U.S. bank account and you transfer it into the U.S., is the money at risk? And the answer is no. You could get the money out anytime you want. You could retransfer it back to Germany. You could, buy whatever you want. It's not at risk, and it is not considered an investment. If that was the case, then anybody could transfer money and say, boom, I'm going to open up a company, here's my money, and try to get the E2 that way. But the E2 requires a lot more specifics and a lot more detail than just showing you have the money. So, it doesn't mean that some of the investment cannot be put in a bank account to show that there's capitalization to run the company. So, for example, let's say you have, $82,000. There's really no problem showing that, 60,000 maybe would be invested in some way or another, and the other 22,000 might be placed in the bank account. That is a decent investment. Of course, it's the other way around. 22,000 for an investment and 60,000 in the bank account. That's not going to work. Okay, and so the next question I always get is, well, what happens if the visa is denied? What happened to my money? Well, in that particular regard, there's a couple things that can be done. First, you can have the seller put the particular funds in an escrow account. I mean, you could, both of you agree. So let's say, for example, you're going to buy a little restaurant, and let's say it's going to be $50,000. So you talk with the seller, you make a good deal, and then you let the seller know that, it's really contingent upon you getting the E2. So the 50,000 is placed. Let's pick a bank. Let's call it Bank of America. So Bank of America opens an escrow account. $50,000 goes in Bank of America with instructions where if the visa is approved, the $50,000 is then transferred over to the seller. If the visa is denied, then the money goes back to you. So while it's in the escrow account, neither you nor the seller can touch it, and it is conditioned upon one of those two events happening. And then everybody's happy. Okay, if the visa is denied for whatever reason, the money gets returned. If it's approved, the money goes forward, and that's considered an investment. Okay, so it's really just a matter of making sure that you actually invest the money. So I get a lot of people who also call, and they're going to be doing consulting, or or for example, they're going to buy houses and then they're going to fix them up and then resell them, and then they don't even need an office to do that. But that again will not work for the E2. The buying and selling of houses and fixing them up, that's great. That'll work just fine for the E2. But you have to have a real office, and most of the time when I do E2s, I like to have an incorporation because it's easier to show certain elements of the E2. However, the investment itself, if it doesn't require a lot of actual money, because let's say you're going to resell something, or let's say you're going to use just what's in your head and becoming a consultant, we know that the reality is you might not need a lot of money. You might be able to work at in your home on a computer, but for E2 purposes you need an office, and you need to have the investment being where the money's at risk. So there's different ways of doing that. If the actual money that you need to invest is not supposed to be that much, one, you can prepay a bunch of rent. I mean, you're going to have an office anyways. So let's say you prepay it for a couple of years or 3 years. It's not like you're throwing money out, but all of that can be used for the investment. You can use assets that you currently have that you're going to transfer into the company, and that will be the fair market value of whatever it is. So let's say you have boats and you're going to sell boats, and let's say you're in England and you've got 3 boats worth $200,000. Well, there's your the majority of your investment right there. You can deduct or use as the investment plane fare, airfare, and money that you spent to come over here to help open the business, attorney's fees to help put the E-2 petition together, food, all kinds of stuff initially. So there's ways of showing a decent amount of investment without, you having to actually spend a ton of money on something which you don't think you would normally have to do. Because ultimately, the E-2 is for entrepreneurs to run your own business. So it's not just to get into the United States. It's to get into the United States on a really nice work visa and run your own business successfully. But in order to do all that, you have to get the E-2 approved, which means you need to have the investment. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe. I usually do weekly videos, more in the coming weeks. Thank you.